somehow I have gotten on a Zoom call with Isaac Mizrahi, who is famous for many things, Project Runway, judge. Is that not true?
Oh no, it's not. It hasn't been true for a really long time. Not for like.
Well, you were once.
Yes, I was once, but you know.
Yes. And also just a epic fashion designer for a long time. And but occasionally known for being on QVC and having an argument in which no one was quite right about what exactly the moon is.
From the planet moon. From the planet moon.
Isn't the moon a star?
No, the moon is the planet, darling.
The sun is a star.
It was met with a very, very unexpected amount of attention. Neither of us, you know, you're on, I mean, darling, if
you're on QVC for a long time. A lot of things happen.
Go through the tapes of QVC and see the stuff we talk about, because that is not the half of it, you know. Really, if you did that, you would have a full kind of, you know, YouTube channel of your very own. We were very surprised by the reaction and kind of like, you know, delighted. In certain cases, like in the case of Rachel Maddow, she wasn't very nice about it. She was literally like riding us for a minute on her show, and it was like, we'll be right back. And then she came back and continued to ride me.
Wow. Yeah, that's how you get him through the commercial break.
Hey Rachel, what did I ever do to you, darling?
We're on the same side, honey.
But then a few days later, there was an article published in the Times about some other subject, and it was quoting a really, really smart guy called Dr. D. Alan Stern. I actually have the quote here. Shall I be so petty? Shall I be so petty?
It's just on your lock screen, like you keep it there all the time.
No, it's actually my screensaver. Okay, wait. It says here, under Dr. Stern's definition, Mr. Mizrahi would win the argument. I am happy to defend him, Dr. Stern said via email Sunday. I see no logical reason why large moons that are in hydrostatic equilibrium should not be considered planets too, and I call them that.
The thing that a little bit bugs me about this whole thing is that the conversation became about how the moon is not a planet, but not about why. Like, what's the difference? But like, sure, a 7-year-old might be able to tell you that the moon is a moon and that there are other moons, maybe. But like, what is it? Like, the moon is not that much smaller than Mercury. There are moons in our solar system that are bigger than planets. So what is the thing? It's just how it behaves in space. It's not what it's made of. It's not what it is. Right. I think that when you're saying in the clip, the conversation is the moon a planet or a star? If it's one of those two things, it's definitely more of a planet.
It's a solid mass floating through the fucking ether, and it's not a star. So, and it's not
definitely not a star.
It's not a meteor, and it actually floats there. And I don't know what it does. I guess we revolve around it, or it revolves around us.
It revolves around us,
right? It revolves around us. So that's what makes it a moon and not a planet. Is that it?
Because so planets go around a star, and moons go around planets. But there are ways in which this gets a little bit fuzzy, because there are some planets, not in our solar system, but in other solar systems, that are kind of like right on the edge of whether they're a planet or a star. If you get a planet big enough, it starts to do some fusion, and you have a little bit of like in-betweeny planet star. And then like, what's that thing going around that? Which is why a lot of scientists are kind of like, well, look, like, it's fine to teach the children the things that we teach the children, but like when we understand how complicated our universe is, these lines get fuzzy. In the clip, you made a number of claims. Some of them were correct and some of them were not correct. One of them was the moon is a planet, which we've gone over. You're basically right, but in the grade school definition, you are not right.
Right.
The moon is not a star. You are definitely right about that. We don't know what the sun is, and as another claim you made in that video, which I will push back on.
What I was saying in that clip is like, yeah, we're not talking about the sun. The sun is a whole other.
You've gone through this thing frame by frame, Isaac.
Of course I have. Well, because it's been reposted so many damn times.
It is very funny.
When Maddow comes for you, you tend to like, kind of take stock of what. Right?
I will never think of Rachel Maddow the same way again after knowing what she did to you.
Hope not.
You also said the sun is a star, which is correct. You said it's a moon at one point, where you got on board with everybody else's definition. It's a natural satellite, which no one liked. But then you said things live on it. That means it's a planet. Are we under the impression that things live on the moon?
By things, I mean, doesn't it have a kind of sediment or rock or soil or something?
Rocks, yes.
And but listen,
they are all okay. They're on the moon. Yeah, they're not really living. What occurs to me in this conversation is that there are so many things that each person knows, and it does not overlap with what every other person knows. And that's not a thing to be angry about. Like, you know a lot more about the sort of consumer market for pants than I do, like just orders of magnitude.
Yes.
And I know more about the moon than you do.
Of course you do. Of course.
And that is like that's the whole way it works. So to get mad about it feels really wrong. Like it can't work if we all know the same things, because we can only know so many things, because we have a lifetime.
Well, I'm not mad. I don't know if you think I'm mad.
No, I don't think you're mad. I think Rachel Maddow was mad.
Well, or somebody got mad. No, she wasn't mad. She was actually like sort of a little bit like funny about it. She was just kind of going on and on and on, and this kind of, like ridiculous, like, really, you don't know that the moon is a moon? If you were Mr. Rogers, you would say, hey, not everybody knows what the moon is, and not everybody knows what the distribution of pants is. You know what I'm saying? That's what you would say.
Yeah. Which, shouldn't we all endeavor to be more like Mr. Rogers?
We should use him as our role model for most every single thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Fred Rogers. Let's get that straight.
Mr. Fred Rogers, not some other Mr. Rogers. Do you have any other questions about moons? Because one of my favorite things about the moon is that we saw the moon first. Like, obviously, it was pretty easy to spot. We named it the moon. And then we noticed that other planets had these things as well, and we named them moons. And so we've sort of ended up in a situation where we've named our moon the moon.
Right.
So
well,
it's like
confusing. This is the confusing thing. We should change the name of the moon, for one thing, so that everybody would go, oh, that object. I was about to say that planet is called, it's actually a moon. We should actually
world.
Amazing.
World is the word you want to use.
Wait a second, darling, wouldn't it be amazing if someone named the moon planet? Because then you could say like, oh, the
planet moon.
Moon, right? Exactly. I don't want to use the 7th grade thing, because that's kind of mean too. If you say like, oh, if you went to 7th grade, you know that the moon is not the planet,
and then you forget most of what you learned.
Yeah, well, that especially. But I go like, you were looking at a tissue, right? And forever and ever and ever, people called it Kleenex, but in the end, it's a tissue. It's like, even though. So what is the moon? And we know what it's not. We know it's not a sun. We know it's not a star. We know it's not a comet or a meteor or something. So what the hell is it? Is it? It's called, I guess it's a moon.
It's
right?
a moon. When Pluto was a planet, it has a moon. So Pluto's a dwarf planet now, because we understand that it's sort of too small and doesn't sort of satisfy all the characteristics that we understand are necessary to sort of like apply the label planet, if we're being scientific. It's a dwarf planet, and it has a moon, but its moon is not that much smaller than it. So the only thing that makes Sharon the moon of the dwarf planet Pluto is the fact that it is orbiting a larger object. If it were on its own, it would be a dwarf planet of its own. It's a category that we created in order to have categories so that we can talk about things.
And God forbid you should say big planets that go around other planets. It's like, don't call it a planet, because even though it has hydrostatic equilibrium of its own or something, you cannot call it a planet.
This is why I like the word world. So the Earth is clearly a world. Jupiter is a world. Io is a world, and the moon is a world. Kind of gotten ourselves into a situation where we can't really use the word planet, because we've defined that so specifically for, the average person.
And the moon affects us so much. I mean,
tides are a huge thing that potentially were sort of instrumental in the early creation of life on the planet. So like literally without the moon, it might be that no life would be on the planet, though of course, we don't know how life exactly started. That's just one of the theories. And the other thing that's really important about the moon is that it slowed us down a lot. So when the moon goes around, it drags the water, and that water actually creates friction on the surface of the Earth, and that slowed the rotation of the Earth over the last billions of years, which means that if there was no moon, a day would be like hours long. I don't know, how would anything work?
Because everything revolves. The Earth is revolving, right? Isn't the Earth going around?
It's rotating. Technically, the word rotating means.
Technically, it's rotating.
And then revolving is going around.
Revolving. It's rotating and it's revolving both.
Correct. Yes.
And we don't really feel the
No.
revolution or the rotation. And I feel like if it was any faster, maybe we would feel it. Like, those crazy rides.
Really like get
So,
super
like,
dizzy.
stuff, right? It's like, woo! And then the bottom falls out. I forget the roundup. Remember the roundup? It would be like the reverse of the roundup. Like
Just shoot right off into space. I think there's probably some ways.
Oh my God.
This is I could keep hitting you with science facts here. The highest point on the Earth away from the center of the Earth is not Mount Everest, because it's actually a mountain that's closer to the equator, because the Earth does bulge because of its rotation. There's a little bulge at the middle.
I've never been in a rocket ship where you could actually see the Earth as an orb, but we've seen photographs of it, right? And it's pretty symmetrical. I mean, I don't now see, that's what I always thought was just so incredible, that is that gravity sort of pulling it all together and keeping.
So if you if you go to the space station and you just like get some water, it will form into a perfect sphere on its own. Everything experiences like the same amount of gravity, because the center of the gravity of the planet would be in the very, very middle. Right. And then everything evens out all the way around.
God, that is fabulous art direction, isn't it? Like everything just becomes round, completely perfectly round. Good art direction. God is a very good art director.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit. It was a joy to talk with you about the moon.
Me too. Thank you so much. I've learned so much.